I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time.
Hello and welcome to the AOSC Super Series live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Daniel Leet and Matthew Norris, Scott Newton on the cameras this evening. And we are just preparing for this round 7 of the championship. And Daniel, we are at a pretty legendary circuit, V8 cars at Le Mans. It's a dream combination. It's something that's it's unlikely that we'll see too many times in real life. But whilst we're here, we are going to soak it all up, and it's an exciting new format as well for tonight. Really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, and to all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you back for this one. Yeah, it's a very unique event tonight, the first of 2 300-kilometre single-driver endurance events that we're going to do, Le Mans, and then in a few weeks' time we'll head off to Daytona and do it all again. But Le Mans in the supercar, it's not a combination you see all that often. It's going to provide a unique set of challenges for these drivers, especially getting their head around, obviously coming from Mid-Ohio, which we saw last week for a 650k enduro. A little bit less time here, no driver pairings, and trying to set the car up for a track that's completely different to what we traditionally see these cars run on.
Usually around this circuit, we see a lot of slipstreaming battles. The Mulsanne Straight, of course, is so long. You've also got the run from Mulsanne Corner to Indianapolis. But these cars don't necessarily facilitate slipstream racing that much. The slipstream effect isn't that strong. I mean, what can we expect from that today? Do you think we're going to see a lot of pack battling, or do you think we'll see kind of the standard pattern of drivers kind of starting to separate out from the first lap?
Yeah, g'day Sam, g'day everyone. I'm really hoping that we're going to see some pack battling, but like you say, this car is not conducive to straight line speed, so I hope none of our drivers have forgotten leg day, because they're going to be holding that accelerator pedal flat for a long time. Let's hope there's pack battles, but let's hope they get some slipstreaming in there as well and make that interesting down at the end of the Mulsanne Straight into the final couple of corners.
Absolutely, should be very interesting. Big thanks to all the sponsors for the championship. You keep on taking the series to new levels. Akuta providing height, safety and rigging equipment for sale and hire. Jinx Shifters, who make Aussie-made premium shifters and also brake bias and ARB adjusters as well, all for sim racing. Race Circuit Arts Australia, with high-quality CNC race circuit. They look absolutely spectacular. Sixth Gear Imagery, who do the sim racing digital imagery for this series, so do check out the images that they put up on the AOSC Facebook page post-race. Also Wolf Graphics, who make Aussie-made stickers, and also Western Master 2 Easy Finance and Parramatta Isuzu Ute as well, which are all Sydney car dealers. So if you are in the Sydney area, do certainly go to any of those 3 if you're looking to buy yourself a new car. We are currently in qualifying, and we've only got a couple more minutes to go in qualifying. Here are the championship standings. It is well, it speaks for itself. I don't really need to take you through that. James Scott with a massive margin. Lots of the drivers behind him taking points off one another. James Scott has won every race of the season so far. Utter domination for him. 2,310 points. Compared to last season, this is to a new level. Jordan Ross in second place. Carl Stokes a very close third. Then it's Corey Shepherd a very quick fourth as well. And then Brady Myers, Adam Briggs. Had a little bit of a tricky run as Adam Briggs in recent rounds. Jordy Seam's been on a fantastic turn of form. Brian Borg, who's had some fantastic results, and also Kenneth Platter and Sean Lindsell just keeping up in that top 10 positions. Top 25 automatically get themselves into each round of the championship. The others will have to try to qualify in order to get into this top split. But just the one split that we are going to be having tonight, and an opportunity for Scott to make it 7 out of 7. And at the moment, he is doing that very well. In qualifying, quarter of a second faster is the car number 1. With most of his rivals currently in the pits, it looks as though Logitech G Altus Esports driver is going to take another pole position, as we are just approaching the very final moments of qualifying. At the moment, the checkered flag is out, but the drivers can complete their lap time. And Daniel, I mean, just again, the dominance from James Scott. Interesting to see Brad Vituday up in second place, and Kenneth Latzer actually doing very well in third position as well. I mean, 2 veterans of the series. But for those guys to, beat the likes of Andrew Dyson and Adam Briggs, Jordan Ross, that's incredibly impressive and shows that EXG Motorsports clearly have come into this round very prepared.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of teams are definitely utilising the fact that 2 and 3 cars out here tonight. And we've already seen in pre-qualifying in Server 4 a lot of teams lining up and trying to help slingshot each other around the track. I saw Shinji Sim Racing taking that to full effect and actually switching cars on the run into each chicane through down the Mulsanne Straight just to keep the speeds high and work their way around for a good lap time. So a lot of teams really working on doing that at the moment. James Scott, one guy doesn't seem to be doing it all. He's gone out on his own. He hasn't really utilised a lot of the draft to get where he is, and to have a car that quick without that aid, looking very, very handy out there. That being said, for everyone else, I mean, when you're the endurance events around here, you always want to come in with a partner, especially on a circuit like this where you can draft. So we're expecting to see a lot of these teams strategize their pit stops to try and come in around the same time, help slingshot each other forward, and also extend their fuel range potentially by sitting in that draft and just saving a little bit here and there.
Yeah, it can certainly be an advantage later on in the race. We are expecting 2 pit stops for us. Also, of course, safety cars are very possible. We might have a random safety car. We might have a safety car deployed due to a gyro having to tow back to the pits. And of course, it's a long way to get back to the pits today, so we might see a couple of them. Fortunately, we'll be using a manual safety car, so we won't be spending 20 minutes behind the pace car. We will just have about 1 or 2 laps held behind it, which will bunch up the order and should make some good racing. Still a couple more drivers trying to improve. McAvoy currently, Tyson McAvoy, one of the few who are trying to improve, currently at 58.96. All these drivers below the 4-minute mark. Just reminded that, of course, that's kind of similar pace to what GT3s would do. GT3s maybe just a little bit slower. And of course, with these long straights, these supercars can really stretch their legs. Great lap there for Tyson McAvoy to move up into 28 right at the end of the session. There's still a couple of others as well. Craig Jones still to complete his lap time. And also the 080 that we're currently watching of Jamie Dyke, who's yet to set a time. And of course, can be so tricky to set a time here at Le Mans with off tracks and with the slowdowns so prominent. Do go slightly off the circuit. This is what Jamie Dyke is trying to improve on at the moment. Just through the final couple of chicanes now, where a slowdown is very easy to pick up. Misses slightly of the first curb there. The 80 approaches the line. Is it at least a time? I'm not sure if it is. It is, but it's only good enough for 35th position at the moment. Could we see, what do we think we're going to see for these drivers in the first stint here, Noy? Do you think everyone's just going to try to maximise the fuel goals as long as they possibly can on fuel, or are we going to see some undercuts potentially from drivers? I mean, what will be going through the minds with the drivers for this, of course, brand new format? We've never had a race in this series of this length.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's gonna be difficult because you will get some that will want to try and undercut and try and fuel save and get that advantage in the pit stop. You will just get some like probably our race leader James Scott will just want to go out and set fast times and just get it all done as soon as possible. So got quite a mixed bag, but you do point correctly to the fact that this is a brand new format for AOSC. This is something we've never tried before. So sticking one driver in the car for 300 Ks is a long way, and it's going to be interesting to see who forms the best adaptment or who adapts best to it on circuit.
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see. I'm sure there's been plenty of practice being put in by the drivers, as James Scott is the only driver, I think, out on circuit at the moment. He's not on a lap, but he's just, playing around. He's still got actually a minute. He's just extending this session ever so slightly. Maybe he doesn't want to go to the race quite yet. He has got quarter of a second of an advantage at the moment in qualifying. One of the elements that I find so tricky about this circuit, Daniel, is the setup that you have to use. Other circuits, of course, if you have a few corners, you set up for the corners, but around this circuit, because of the Mulsanne Straight, you've got to take out all the wing. And so when you do get to the Porsche curves, the car is an absolute handful. It's part of the reason why I'm not a massive fan of driving this circuit, just because you're feeling so on edge. You're having to almost drive with your toes on the pedals at times, because you've got to be so careful not to lose the rear end at any point. I think that's going to be an important part of today's race as well, especially for 300 Ks, to keep it in a straight line for the till the checker flag.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those circuits, and you could probably easily reference a lot of the stuff that we'd see at the Nürburgring, where with the length of the lap here and obviously the long straights that we've got through the Molston, you're trying to get maximum straight line speed out of this. There are some really technical spots around here, just where James Scott is going down into Molston Corner. You've got to be able to get that car to brake and then still rotate up through Indy and Arnage. I mean, they're two of the slowest corners there. And then to complete the lap, we're getting these guys throwing these cars up over the curb. So you then got to throw in the ride height and control to get the best out of it as well. So it's a lot to think about in how you set these cars up, even more to get the perfect lap out of them.
We're going to have a rolling start for this 22-lap race. It's James Scott on the pole position. Like you can see, by quarter of a second. Ken Latzer starts in third place. Adam Briggs in fourth. Then it's Jordan Ross, Daniel Misdale, Corey Shepard, Brian Borg, Andrew Dyson, Jordy Sinney, Christian Smart, qualifying there for the 999. Jacob Knight starts in 12th. Then it's Jamie Stovall, Jamie McKnight. You can see him back. Damien Johnston, David Kimmons, Mark Duggan, Michael Whiting, Neil Pearson, Rob Boden, Craig Jones, Greg Sharp, Sean Thompson, Matty Mascord, who recently made his debut in the series, but seems to become a regular. So too Michael Dumbrell as well. Marty Hansen starts in 26th. Then Simon Veyer, Tyson McAvoy, Matthew Scholes, Stephen Varga, Rob Harris, Harry Dodds, Sean Chappell, Paul Warwick, Jamie Dyke, Chris Barnes, Alex Schuler, Stephen Martin, Tony Gapper, Nathan Clive, Mark V, Brody Scott, Mark Dillell, Brett Loxton, Michael Taliancic, watch out for him as long as he takes the start. Carl Stokes as well. What a row 23 that is. Then Blake Delaney and Scott McCune and David Camilleri. A couple of them are going to be part of the safety cars, I imagine. As the drivers are just lining up on the grid at the moment, of course, tailing back all the way to the chicane at the moment, and that could be a problem further down, but it's a problem as well when you have rolling starts. But it's going to be James Scott from the pole position. It's a decently long run down to turn 1, and of course with the quick right into the slow chicane, could see problems. Can he make it? 7 out of 7 at a legendary motorsports venue.
Flag.
It's green flag racing at Le Mans. It's a poor start from P3 on the grid. Ken Latz just did not get the power down whatsoever. James Scott, though, leading, going into turn 1. He's been able to hold off it 2 so far. Latz continues to fall down the order. Great start for Damien Johnston. A bit further down the order as they start to get into single file near the front. They need to try to stay within the draft range of one another in order to be able to pull down the Mulsanne straight 4 wide further back in the pack. And also Damien Johnston still gaining places up, 4 places up into the top 10 already for himself. It's pretty good drive so far for many of the drivers, with 2 dropping half a second behind Scott at the moment, but that will be within draft range. He should be able to suck himself back up to the back of the Logitech G Altus Esports driver. This gets a pretty good run onto the Mulsanne straights, and this is the first time we're going to see these cars really stretch their legs and see what the tow effect is going to be like.
It was a really good start from everyone involved. Doesn't look like we've had any issues for all those cars getting away, especially down at the back end of the forward curve there. Just as you were saying, Sam, Brad Rattu has been able to close up that gap on James Scott with the aid of the draft. Scott just running a little defensive early on, swings it back into the braking zone and fires through. Brian Borg on his teammate there, starting to come up with a big lock-up into the first of the chicanes. Going to have to be careful there not to flat spot the tyres too much, because that will definitely hinder there, but he'll now slot in behind Dyson and take advantage of that draft. Everyone else in the background still working their way through it. It's a massive train of cars, 48 drivers out here tonight, and a lot of opportunity for all these guys to work their way up and down through the order.
Potentially it's advantage already for XG with Ken Latta dropping down. He's trying to recover as many places as he can. He's got Daniel Misdale now sitting on his rear end. Has recovered back up into 5th place after dropping momentarily down to 6th, but already quite a chasm between 4th and 5th, as Adam Hedgecock would say, 2 seconds the gap between these two, and then this pack goes all the way down to 18th place Jacob Knight. But further down, I think Craig Jones has had some issues. He seems very slow. Also Matt scores as well, and they have dropped 8 and 6 places respectively, dropping outside the top 30.
Yeah, we're hearing a few issues with race controls that are being looked into, so possibly a little bit of contact from these guys as they all fire it down. There's a car off in the background at the Mulsanne there. We didn't quickly get to see who that is. I think it might be Marty Hansen for Taipan Esports down at the roundabout there. So he's going to have to wait for everyone to clear and get himself back underway. But he's going to drop right to the back of the field. And here's a look at how that unfolded. He had one of the Coda cars just in front of him there. Ran it very deep under brakes. Just not, or actually gets a bit of a rotation. I think it was Greg Sharp. He was unloaded him there as he was closing that car back across into the braking zone. So that'll definitely catch the attention of race control.
Yeah, no idea. Was this just the inside driver moving slightly across, or maybe the other way around, do you think?
Yeah, it looks like he's just run out of road, and there's a car between him and the road's edge, which has caused the rotation on that one. Not altogether fortunate.
Certainly not. Let's see, staying ever so close to Scott. That toe effect, seemingly plenty enough for him to be able to stay close. These four could be line astern all the way to the end of the race. That's what we're hoping for, at least. It's going to be one of Scott's most tricky races of the season, even if he does have a pace advantage, like he didn't have across that Okayon when Griggs was done by definitely the bus, as Scott is lifting off on the inside. Does he want to come into the pits or something? Oh, that's dropping back quite a bit. This is a slowdown, we think. So on the first lap, of course, you have such a big slowdown, and that is a strange mistake from a driver who doesn't make a mistake, guys. And that's a real surprise. Red for 2 now leads the race, and I can honestly say I've never seen Red 2 lead a race before.
No, it's a good opportunity for him. Go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, these three guys need to take this opportunity, as you're probably about to say, Dan, that Ratu, Briggs and Ross need to get away from James Scott as fast as they can and make sure he doesn't, if he's going to slip up again, he does, because this is their opportunity now to go for a race win.
Yeah, up to 1.1 seconds, so Scott will be out of draft range. However, the pace that he showed in practice with the pace he showed as well in qualifying, to be like it's only a matter of time until the defending champion does start to get himself back in touch with these guys. But he won't be saving a whole lot of fuel. Briggs is in the prime position at the moment, and he is looking to take a very long overdue win. Daniel Mearsdale under pressure from Corey Shepherd, also Andrew Tyson in this battle. I think Shepherd just moving up. Or was that Shepherd actually losing out to Dyson? So Dyson up into 7th place. These guys have been battling for a little while already. Dyson did start behind his rival. Also, Rob Bowden gaining 5 places. Thompson up 5 places. The issue for Neil Pearson further down, he'd got himself into the top 20, and he's now slipping well down the orders. Also, drive the penalty for car 393 for a lap shunt, and that is Simon Bayer who has received that penalty. Bayer, by the way, already in the pits, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to serve that one. Christian Smart, now I am seeing dropping down the order. Smart has a problem after a very good qualifying as well for the 999, one of his best qualifyings of the season. It hasn't lasted very long.
Looks like it's hit a wall on that car.
As you see, alongside for the lead, Jordan Ross has all of a sudden jumped into the lead. And look at Scott as well. He was a second behind these guys before. He's into 3rd in the train. And it's Jordan Ross who leads. Started in 5th place. Ross immediately got past Ken Latter, who had an awful start from the line. And then has just been able to draft himself past both the 2 and Briggs. Briggs moving down from 2nd to 4th in quick succession. And with all this battling, it is going to invite Latter onto the back of these guys, who I imagine will be quite a bit faster than these drivers on this lap. He's now only 1.7 off this poor car pack.
Yeah, based on what we're seeing from the draft already, obviously with Scott coming back after the earlier slowdown that he copped on the exit of the Porsche Curse, where we are right now, there's every opportunity that Ladder will be able to close that down as these guys continue to fight and work their way through. But as we ride on board here, it's a lot of throttle control trying to get these cars to rotate through. They're very awkward. Everyone now going to have to be very, very cautious just on that little exit out there, just to make sure they don't pick up those slowdowns.
Well, the next 20 laps are going to be exciting as the first couple, and we're in for a hell of a race. Ross leads at the end of lap 2. On to lap 3 we go. We're expecting 8 lap stints for the drivers. That's pretty much as far as they're going to be extended, so not a whole lot of leeway. And really the earliest you're going to be able to come into the pits is going to be approximately lap 5, but even that would be pretty risky to get to the end of the race with just the 2 pit stops. McAvoy 22nd, and he has actually fallen down the order as McAvoy, just having maybe picking up a slowdown.
And 717 cutting the corner right about there, just up the road ahead of these guys. So all these drivers not used to this circuit as well as they probably should be as an endurance circuit, but they're all just slipping up, making minor mistakes.
That's so easy to do around this place. It is a tricky circuit to learn. You don't do a whole lot of laps around a track like this because the straights are just so long. You rarely reach a corner. Here comes Scott, back up into second, and that just shows the pace of James Scott today. Can pick up a slowdown, and within half a lap he else catch up to the rest of the order. Driving penalty for the 888 machine, and that will be a penalty for Carl Stokes. He started from the back. He's caused a collision. A driving penalty around this circuit is going to be quite a lot of time wasted. I'd say this is certainly going to be a go-away race for one of the front runners in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a tough ask for him now to come back as a result of that. He's going to definitely need the safety car intervention to help close himself back up onto that train and get back into it and see what he can do. Just keeping an eye on our top 2. They're starting to gain a little bit of an advantage now over Bradra too, and this will be a good opportunity here for James Scott to get back up into the lead of this race as they head down towards Mulsanne Corner.
Called it as it happened, and James Scott threw back to the lead. So that is 3 laps and 3 lead changes so far this race.
That was a little bit of a poor exit quickly for Ross. Look at that, the gap's already opened up to quite a big lead as 3 wide into Mulsanne Corner. Contact between the front 2. Oh, well, that was begging to happen, wasn't it? And skating off the circuit was Stephen Varga. Yeah, Stephen Varga's the one who's lost out big time from that. We've also got McAvoy and Dumbrell, I think, were the other 2 involved. But if you're going to go 3 wide into a really narrow corner like that, I can't expect it to turn out a whole lot better what it did. Trying to spawn now as McAvoy trying to just down the inside of Dumbrell. Has to back out of it. Bad news for Stephen Varga. Still with a poor corner. Ooh, that's a contact between one of the fishy cars, and he's hit David Kimmond there. He was a pretty innocent bystander there. Unfortunately, I don't think he's got any steering damage, but I wonder if the stewards will even have to have a look at that one and maybe a redress. As these guys are now 15 seconds off the lead, I think, yeah, it's only 15 seconds, which isn't, well, I guess we're only on lap 3 of the race. We would have completed lap 3 very, very soon in this event, at least for the front runners. So about 5 seconds a lap difference around what will be the longest track we visit all season. Technically, we are visiting the Nordschleife this championship. Johnston in 9th place. He's got Brian Borg for company, who has had a real upturn in form. Him and Premier Racing, Corey Shepherd, and their new drivers for this season certainly helped in that chase for the upper positions. They have really established themselves as arguably the second biggest team. DPR started great as well, but just struggling in the last few rounds, whereas Premier has been able to keep up that pace with Pursuit struggling a little bit as well. Premier Racing Team having a very good season, but however good season is, still can't move up into 9th place. Ken Borg, who is down 2 places from his race start. As though the gap at the front has opened up to 1 second now between Scott and Ritsu. And these guys need to be careful. I think Briggs realises this, to be fair. Just slips out of the throttle and just allows Briggs to follow the toe himself in order to drag himself back up to Scott. Oh, that's pretty deep there for Ritsu. Does he get it all slowed down? It was a poor exit. And the gap moves back up to 9/10 of a second. This is a big time at the moment. You cannot afford to drop more than 1 second off James Scott, otherwise that could pretty much be the race over as long as we don't get a safety car. I mean, once Scott breaks that draft, then you'll have the potential to just sprint away into the distance.
And I'm not sure where it happened, but Jordan Ross has fallen back to position 4 there, so that's been a healthy battle for the front 4 up there.
Yeah, Ross sliding through the second milestone corner was Brian Borg, who has got past Damien Johnston. That was one of the places he's lost. It's pretty spread out in this area. We thought that we'd have a bit more of a train hit, but everyone just getting a slight slipstream of one another at the moment. Are we going to see a response straight away, though, from the 033? So he's got a much better line. This isn't really going to be helping them too much in pace, though. No, I don't really see the point in changing positions like this when really there's a bigger fish to catch.
Yeah, I think when you're sitting in P10 at Le Mans and you want to just keep fighting and someone has even pace as you, and look at the way Brian Borg is catching Damien Johnston through here, just making it easy for him. And this is probably where he was so agitated to get past in the first place. He just wants to get that position done and get that car out of the way. Obviously, Damien Johnston much better through the braking, and Brian Borg slides it off that corner. That won't help his terminal speed at all. Jamie McKnight will definitely be licking his lips at this one. He'll be hoping these two keep slipping up, making some mistakes. He'll be wanting those positions. He'll take them willingly.
I really don't understand why there was the attempted move from Borg into Indianapolis there. I mean, that move doesn't usually work on a good day anyway. You can see he got the inside and was on the outside for the next corner. Please yourself half a second and really benefits anything. So it will be, as I was watching back some replays of myself in PSR Radical Championship we had a couple of years ago, and I just the amount of batsing there was out in the circuit, just so pointless, you know, when you're batsing one another and you're going to overtake them in the next straight anyway. Really just sticking behind your rival, saving some fuel in the draft is almost always better. But I guess if you're second in line and you think you've got more pace, you'll be wanting to be the lead car so you can drag the pair of you up to the car ahead. But that's the kind of communication almost that these drivers will be having with one another. Redwood too, if there's any doubt about his pace, I think those doubts are being squashed. He's got the gap back down to half a second. It's not all down to draft. Through the Porsche cars, he's particularly managing to maintain the gap to Scott. And this is a real opportunity for an EXG win. I mean, Noah, you've been involved in the series for slightly longer than I. But I can't remember EXG winning a race before. In fact, last season, they'd be pretty happy with a top 10. And right now in this Le Mans race, they are absolutely driving incredibly. I don't know what's come about this turn of pace for Bradford too and Ken Latzer, but they're certainly showing it right now.
Absolutely, these guys are punching well above their weight. It's not normally a team that we see punching at the front, but like you say, whatever the forms come from, we'll take it. It's taking a chance to James Scott, and it's throwing up a different play, which even Adam Briggs in the DPR car, he's back on form, but he'll need to rise to lift to the occasion and try and wrestle the XG car away from James Scott.
Daniel, at the moment, if you're Bradford too, do you overtake James Scott?
Look, it's a bit of a tough call because I was watching him just down into the first chicane there, and just before we got to the braking zone, he was already starting to check that car up just fractionally to stay behind and probably save a little bit of fuel. As we see, Adam Briggs actually gets past both of the guys. Scott and Ratu there now promotes himself up to the front, so another car to take over the lead of this race. But for Ratu at the moment, he's playing his cards really close to his chest. He's not trying to show the outright speed of that AXG Commodore, and this is actually probably a pretty smart play for him here because he can sit in behind these guys in front, let them battle, save that fuel, which is ultimately going to help him as far as his stationary and transit times down the lane go.
I looked away for a moment now. I was really confused when I saw Adam Briggs just leading the race. The others seemingly lifting off. Now, Ken Latter, though, he was chasing up to the back of these guys, makes a mistake, drops back down to 6th place. But everyone's in the draft now of one another in this top 7. Even Corey Shepard's just a little bit detached, 1.85 off the next car, and you can actually see that gap is increasing. But if we get a 7-car battle, this is what we like, and a couple of these rounds every season is always good fun. We didn't quite have this at Wazza. Ooh, that's a slide. I think that was a bump from Johnston. Him and Borg still battling with one another. By the way, on that last lap, they lost 2 seconds to the leaders. Not that slow. They're just battling. I don't know why they're battling. They're catching up to Jordy Cini at least, who is struggling for pace at the moment in Cini. 57.5 on that last lap, about 1.5 seconds slower than the race leaders, about 2 seconds slower than the race leaders. And he is getting caught a bit adrift at the moment in P8, so this could be a good battle between Cini, Borg, Johnston and McKnight. Coming up basically as Duggan has been able to get past Thompson. Mark Duggan, driver who I haven't seen too much of in the past, doing a very nice work at the moment, and also Jacob Knight being back up into 12th place. He's back where he started. He's overtaken Rob Bowden.
Yeah, good drive from Knight here. He's closing back up, back into where he started from in 12th position. Rob Bowden, not an easy contender to get through, but these two now working well. Bowden, it's actually been a really good start for him so far in the race. 5 laps in, gained 7 positions from where he started, so continuing to plug away. And we saw that team have a very solid run last week out at Mid-Ohio, and they're continuing to grow, which is fantastic to see. It looks like just forward of this little group, McKnight has now got up onto the back of Damien Johnston and Brian Borg, so that little 4-car train, including Cini, has now started to form up, and good to have McKnight back in, who's come back after a few rounds away with a few operations, so he'll be reveling being back in the rig and getting a run out there tonight for United Sim Sports.
I mean, that's commitment if ever I've heard it. Having an operation just to get better at sim racing. Full credit to Jamie McKnight there for sacrificing. That's a contact quarter panel. That's a good definition of a quarter panel there. Duggan drops down, and from that angle, well, that's a little bit of an unsafe view as well. From that angle, it looked as though that was Duggan's fault, to be honest. Had the inside line, but if you've got the car alongside you in supercars racing, in touring car racing, and even in GTs as well, you've got to leave the space. The driver on the outside it doesn't have to back out. Obviously, if you have single seaters, then the driver on the outside kind of has to back out because they need to preserve their own car. In that situation, Duggan just not leaving space, it seemed, and goes spinning around here. It's the replay. I don't know. The stewards will have a look at that one. They'll look at it from a few different angles, I'm sure.
Yeah, to be honest, looking at that, I think that's a bit of a hard call, unfortunately, there for Duggan. I mean, he had Sean Thompson down the inside trying to make the break into Dunlop chicane, didn't quite get it pulled up, but held in there to try and get through, so didn't quite work out for him. He was able to rejoin, but being at the start of that lap too, and how hard that car hit the wall, what other damages he got on there, and how's his run to get that car back home going to be, so keep an eye out on that. Alex Schuler, Fastlane Motorsports, Fastlane Esports, sorry, having a relatively quiet run, down a few spots from where he kicked off, but he's got Stephen Varga right ahead, Michael Whiting just behind, and these guys are scrapping down over the 22nd position.
Schuler already gaining up 13 places. Michael Tangic, the highest gain of anyone, up 23 places after not setting a qualifying time. Not quite sure why that was. Maybe a penalty. for Michael Taliancic. Did not take part in the last round of the championship. Still going for Pursuit Sim Racing. Unfortunately, had a very diminished field last time out at Mid-Ohio, and didn't have a particularly great performance at a team who, of course, are usually very good at the enduro events, but they were rather diminished last time out. Oh, that's contact 3 wide. Oh, wow, how's that not? An airplane crash right there. We've seen Mark Webber go over the trees in that part of the circuit, and we nearly saw it again then. They're still making contact. The 747 Henry Racing car with Greg Sharp trying to get past Sean Thompson. They will have to back out of this one, but now he's going to lose a place to Greg Sharp as well. Gets a little bit onto the grass, gets a big slide. The cars will be starting to go off now at this point of the race. That was all very messy. Some aggressive driving at the moment from the guys. Plenty of kind of, I know, just unnecessary contact, but they're not leaving space for one another. It's very strange.
Doesn't matter what camera angle we look at, it seems every time we look, Sean Thompson is getting bashed from pillar to post. So he'll be looking for a bit of clean air and hoping not to get caught up in anyone else's incidents as we get further into this race. But 6 laps down, we're looking towards how long before they start pulling out those pit stops.
It's that slowdown for the 038. Yeah, Bradford's 2 has picked up a slowdown. Oh, that's a painful. That is painful. That's his teammate Ken Latzer past, and he might even have to let Shepard past. Need to serve that slowdown ASAP. You do get a timer now for when you have to serve it. It can go up if you leave it too long. Racing incident between the 864, I think that's for the quarter panel, a couple of laps ago, and the stewards deeming that there was no need for a penalty there. Stephen Varga, first driver to come into the pits. We do believe the pit window is now open, so you can come into the pits and still make it with 2 stops, and that's what Varga's trying to do. Of course, issues already for Stephen after going off at Molstone Corner earlier on in the race. The EXG guy starts into battle. Latzer with a mistake earlier on in this lap, and now the 7-car chain is very much divided. We've actually got 2 cars now leading the way, because Latzer, of course, over 2, sorry, was in 3rd place. He had the slowdown, and it's left a bit of a void now, and Briggs and Scott are going to try to sprint away. This is looking as good for Adam Briggs as it has done since Okayama, when he had that stunning turn-up form. He qualified on the front row of the grid, made a mistake on the first lap, dropped to 9th place, I think it was, nearly won besides that, but this is the first time that we've seen challenging for a race win ever since.
Yeah, it's a good run for Briggs here to get back into form. Obviously, we didn't see him last week at Mid-Ohio. Actually, we didn't see any of the DPR cars out on track, but to come here tonight, he's picked up, as you say, Sam, right where he left off from Okayama, where he was one of the only cars really to be able to take the challenge through to James Scott. And these two now working very, very well to try and extend the gap that they can over Jordan Ross and Andrew Dyson. You can see just behind. And what was, as you say, that 7-car train has really exploded now in 3 different battles.
Scott bump drafting. Is that bump drafting? Or is that just him lifting off before? I don't think he'd risk bump drafting. Ross now within 9/10. It does open up slightly through Milestone Corner. And you can see the top 7 all in shot right there.
I don't think we'd see any bump drafting. As Joe McKnight just went a little bit wide up the back end of that corner there. But we'll definitely see some close following, because the closer you can stick behind that car in front, the more they punch into the air, and the more you get a free little toe and a boost in your incremental top speed. So we'll be trying to stick with that car as far down the straight as you can. Look at this.
So Johnston leading City and Borg.
This is nice between Daniel Johnston and...
Yeah, surprising that McKnight hasn't been joined that one. Yeah, he's going to be watching it from afar. You think he'd want to be right in there, at least saving a bunch of fuel in the draft. Is anyone going to come into the pit this time round? It certainly is possible if you want the undercut. Personally think if you're Latzer or Itsuki, you've lost a bit of time to the guys ahead. Come into the pits, get that lap underneath them. You'll probably be able to outpace them, and you'll be right with those leaders. Sure, you'll have slightly older tyres for the rest of the race. Would just be a good strategy to go for. Let's see if anyone does try it this time. And I seriously doubt any of the top 3 come to the pit, seeing that they have saved quite a bit of fuel already. And I was wrong. 2 of the top 3 coming to the pits. Scott is the one who stays out. Well, guys, does that mean that you can only go 7 laps on fuel then? Because only Scott and Dyson continuing.
That's a roll call between everyone from 1st to 7th, except for the 2 you just called out with Scott and Dyson sticking with it and sticking out. It'd be interesting to see how this works for Briggs, because he's definitely got the pace to match it with James Scott. So it'd be interesting to see if James pits at the end of this lap. And look at that track map, look at all that free real estate over the back of the Moorstone Straight. It's a huge venue.
So Daniel, before we went live, you were saying how the drivers could go 8 laps. I mean, do you think maybe are they just using more fuel than expected then, and can only go 7 laps, or is this just a tactical thing where they want to get fresh tyres earlier on in the race?
No, I think we're seeing a little bit of a tactical thing. If we consider what we saw in qualifying just before, we know James Scott can get that car down into a 353, so he's leaving a little bit of time out on the table, and obviously with the battling we've seen, it has helped extend the range a little bit further on. So for Scott here, there's actually probably a good advantage. He's not going to be held up. He can start trying to stretch the legs of that Altus car on the low fuel, which from what we've seen so far looks to be very, very poised out on circuit, which is only going to help him here. Keep an eye on the top 3 at the moment. Dyson, McKnight also involved. He's stayed out from what we saw, the battling just ahead, so he's trying to extend that fuel tank as well. But these guys are playing some interesting strategies at the moment. The track temperature's looking very nice out there at the moment, so 19 degrees, which isn't really going to hurt the tyres too much. It's going to still allow these guys to have ultimate grip. And for the guys that want to extend it on the light fuel, this is probably a great opportunity to get it out there.
Of course, 22-lap race. If you only went 7 laps on each stint, you only get to lap 21, and that is pretty advanced maths I've just done in my head. So you need to do an 8-lap stint, and that is probably the big advantage that James Scott has now, that he doesn't need to worry about fuel to the end of the race, and everyone else will have to do 8 laps, or maybe you can go 8 laps pretty easily, as Daniel was saying, and it is just a tactical thing at the moment to cut it slightly short for now. But it's something that the others are going to have to think about. But currently the top 12 not coming into the pits. Adam Briggs in front of the drivers who have come into the pits. And he's in a little bit of free air at the moment. He's got Blake Delaney just in front of him. Barnes letting a few of the front runners past. There's a dangerous territory for the drivers who have gone the extra lap, because you lose so much time being overtaken. It's unreal how much time you lose being overtaken. Maybe not quite so much as single seaters or Prius types, where you have a lot more of a turbulent air effect. But when you've got 5 or 6 of the fastest drivers in the series all streaming past you, they're not going to waste any time. You'll just spend the whole lap basically moving offline for them. It's something that you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about what lap you're going to come into the pits. Off the circuit is Blake Delaney, who hasn't pitted yet, and that was he was actually sitting just in front of Adam Briggs, I believe, and Delaney jumps to 18th right there. Shame for the 718. The 08 apologies.
Yeah, he would have been trying to stick with his own battle when he had all those cars who had previously pitted on the lap prior bearing down on him, so that would have been a pressure mistake on that one. This is Michael Dumbrell getting the run on Matthew Scholes. Looks like he's got the legs, and he needs a bit more slipstream, so he takes back in behind.
So Scott and Dyson and McKnight, everyone who hasn't been to so far is into the pits. What was that last lap time for Scott? It's difficult to tell, to be honest, because but come into the pits, don't you? But it was, I mean, he was Scott's in lap was 2 seconds faster than Briggs's in lap. So I think he should still have the lead here, should James Scott, and he might be able to take less fuel. So this could be a lead for car number 1. Or maybe going to be actually be very close. We'll wait and see. This is a big moment, though. If Scott has got a lead of 2 seconds or more, can break the draft, and that would be tricky for the others to overhaul. Remember, no pit stop so far, no safety car so far in this race. Here comes Adam Briggs. James Scott coming out of the pits. This could be pretty close. It will be closer than I thought it would be. And Briggs will be behind, but he will be within draft range. There we are. Scott Hanks taking a tighter line. We'll take a couple of corners for the tyres to warm up as well. And that is good news for Adam Briggs. He stayed within the draft range. And we should pretty much have the same race as what we had before the pit stop.
Interestingly, though, the stationary time there for James Scott, 3 seconds longer than what we saw from Briggs. So I wonder if Briggs has potentially short-filled that car to try and help gain the track position and stay out. But if James has been able to get the full 84 litres back into that car, he's going to be sitting in a very good position at the moment, especially knowing that he can get down to that 8th lap.
Just wonder maybe Briggs couldn't quite make the 8th lap, and so in order to fill the rest of the fuel, didn't have to put as much in because he already had like half a lap spare. And then Scott was running on fumes and had to fill up an entire tank. So yeah, that will be interesting. Briggs gets the gap down to 8/10 of a second. That draft effect, I did not think it'd be this strong. 1.1 seconds, and you gained quite a bit of time, it seems.
I guess it all goes down to how much they're throwing it into the corners there. We've seen a couple of drivers break quite deep, and when you've got a gap of about 1.1 seconds, you can really close it up and then use that toe down the straight to really maximise the effect.
Betsy catching back up to Ross, and not far behind Briggs. He seems to gain a couple of tenths down the straights, but then loses so much time through the chicanes as Briggs. You can see the relative speed. We want a close race here, and you get the gap down to a second to Scott, and then just seemingly overshooting the chicanes to run through it. Although I think that may be oversimplifying things a little bit. Maybe just not quite as comfortable around that part of the circuit. Through the Porsche curves, these guys have looked very strong in comparison to Scott. Ross just staying ahead of Ritty for the time being. Here comes Matty Mascors, who did have an off earlier on in the race, but he's coming back a few places down from his start. That is a move on Harry Dodds, and that's a very good move on Harry Dodds as well. He has to drive it in deep, and he is ahead by 8.5 back to 26. Alongside, just behind them, Duggan. Duggan, of course, having that quartz panel. I think he may have hit the wall as well, did Duggan. It was around the Dunlop Bridge. He may have hit the wall, but seemingly okay at the moment. Of course, the drivers do get a fast repair as well. Everyone else on the circuit has so far come into the pits. Good pit stop actually for Stephen Varga. Came into the pits on lap 6 and actually took slightly less fuel than the others. He's been able to get himself back up into 20th place despite an off earlier on. He's up 10 places from his start now, is Varga. Has got 6 seconds to catch up to the next drivers. That's the strength of the undercut. The problem for Varga now is that he's got older tyres than his rivals, and he's going to have to take... he's got older tyres than his rivals, and he is going to... a slight strategy disadvantage to the end of the race, as Adam Briggs has had an issue. Has he picked up a slowdown?
We've seen Briggs now just drop a few places, finds himself now down in 4th position again behind Ratu and Ross. So let's check out what we can see on the replay and whether this was a run through Porsche curves. It was very wide on the exit there, and I think that might have been where he has then ultimately picked that up. Quick off the brakes to slow it down, but that late change of transition as you run through here, and here's another look at the cars running through. Really awkward to try and get those cars pinned in along the apex of those corners. Runs it through, throws it in quite early on, but the momentum just carries it wide, all 4 tyres outside that white line, and the ultimate slowdown ensues. So quick to try and clear that, doesn't lose too much time as a result, and should be able to close back in under draft, back to Ross and Ratu.
seconds now for the race leader. We always have these challenges, don't we, against James Scott. One person claims that they can maybe take him on, but to sustain that across a long race is so tricky. Of course, we're on lap 10, you know, a 150 kilometer race would actually end on the next lap. And thank goodness we have 300 kilometers. It's such a quick circuit this. That yeah, quite quickly it was just 150. But we see mistakes from drivers. We've seen a mistake from Gatsu, of course. Earlier on in the event when he picks up a slowdown, we've seen a mistake from Griggs now with the slowdown. Admittedly, we've seen a mistake from James Scott as well. He picks up a slowdown on the first lap. It's a beaches where you've got to be on your top game all the way. And that is what these drivers just struggle to do. But if we get a safety car, it will certainly bunch everyone up and it could make for an interesting finish. Two moves up into second place, though, past Jordan Ross. And those guys so far have worked really well as a pair, the Holden and the Ford. And they will, I imagine, stay in that order. And Griggs as well has been very mature whenever he's been battling. Neil Pearson had quite a few shots of him so far. He hasn't got a rear wing, at least that's Matty Mascot. He hasn't got a rear wing. And ooh, that's a massive slide 3 wide between a lot of them. And Whiting loses 3 places in quick succession.
Yeah, they're lucky not to find his way out to the outside wall there. Was able to recover that car, drops those few spots, but he should be able to get back underway without too much trouble. That will present a good opportunity here for Marty Hansen in the Type N Esports car. We should see him slide that car through into the second chicane here. He gets it down the inside.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Big
What was that
contact.
about? That was a really strange one. I just saw the, I think we all just saw the back of it, and high speed impact.
Neil Parsons heading down, making the corner, loses the rear and gets whacked and spun around, and that's his race. Did he get a touchdown?
That's the touch.
Yeah, very early on the brakes there, and just gets run into in the back.
I don't even think Mascot slowed down.
It would have been, well, yeah, I guess it's unlikely it would have been okay. We are using an Australian server, and these are all Australian drivers. But that was an odd one. I think you should see that one. You know, that's something that you feel like could happen quite often, but he doesn't normally. And the 585 does get a drive team penalty. That is Matty Mascot, who are up to a good qualifying, has not had the race to remember. Schuler and McCune, oh, that's gonna be contact. That could have been a lot worse. The Penrite car nearly going into the back of the car just ahead. And also Carl Stokes as well involved in this one. Was it Stokes who got the penalty earlier on? And despite that drive penalty, he's been down the pits twice already. He's still battling along, and he is in 33rd place. And if we get a safety car for Stokes, he could get a top 10, I think, out of today, but he needs that to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we might actually see him get a move done here momentarily on Tony Gaff with the 411 there, just locking up a brake on the initial run through the Porsche curves. And you keep an eye too, Brett Loxton now closing in on this little fight as well. He's also brought Sean Chappell up into it as well, so pretty strong 6-car little fight here. Tony's going to have to be careful not to lose 2 or 3 positions in the blink of an eye.
It's a fantastic thing about this circuit, though. Having the long drafting down the straight has caused these close battle packs, and if he is not careful, Tony will go down 3 or 4 spots, like you correctly said then, in the blink of an eye, by just having all that gaggle of cars waiting to have an attack.
That's a jobs behind Dyson. It's 5th and 6th. By the way, James got on that last lap 18 so second faster than we had to. Mighty times. To be fair, Andrew Dyson was taking that last lap by 4 in 5th place. But I think that was with quite a bit of aid from the draft, whereas of course Scott having to punch a hole into the air himself. I think we'll go back to that big battle there with Gaffer and Stokes and Loxton and Kate. It looks it's very red on our screen, which indicates it's very exciting. Therefore, 11 still ahead of the trio.
This is it. So he's lost one position.
Yeah, that's dead level. Stoke seems to be struggling for the pace. Showing high speed, can't get that one stuck on Gaffer at the moment. Dumbrell's just had an issue in front of them. Watch out, you might be passing Dumbrell any moment now. Or maybe he's alright, maybe he just cut the chicane. But that is a glow red for a moment. Stokes up into 30 seconds, so yeah, Gaffer loses one place. And it could be the first of a few. Dumbrell as well, still losing places, so Dumbrell did just cut the chicane, the 007 car, and he is going to be able to take it by Stokes. But look at this battle now. This is 6 cars all in a train as the headlights now start to turn on. I didn't realise it was quite so late, but now that I look at the sky, it is quite late, and it is actually 9:15 in the evening, so we could be getting some pretty dark conditions by the end of this event. It looks very pretty.
Yeah, that'll be a really unique challenge now for the guys moving into the night transition. Obviously, the sun getting very low at this time of the day. So now going from that low light situation to an almost dark situation, especially around Le Mans, where there's not a lot of light visibility around 2/3 of the circuit, going to be awkward for them to go. It looks like we've got our safety car out on track at the moment, and this will be the first of our random safety cars tonight. So that'll be a good opportunity to see who is willing to duck into the lane, or whether we see anyone ducking in the lane to try and get another one that stops out.
That was nearly Nick Heifeld's 2002 Interlagos. 2002, I'm not quite sure. Someone can correct me on that one, where he hit the safety car door. Jordan Ross into the pits. Now this is good, because sometimes we have these these decisions whether to come to the pits or not, and it's all quite assumptive. It's like, yeah, come into the pits, or no, you don't come into the pits. I can theoretically see how you could come into the pits, and look at that, it's pretty much half and half at the moment. Drivers who have come into the pits. The thinking of coming into the pits is that if you can take fuel now, you'll have to take less fuel later on. You can take 20 litres now, and then that will mean that you'll have to take 20 litres less at the end of the race at your last pit stop. That might mean that you can get ahead. It'll also mean you'll have fresh tyres for a little bit, and you can also run on new tyres for the next few laps. I think this is a good strategy, guys. The backfiring of it obviously is the fact that you're going to lose track position and you're going to have a few cars to overtake. But well, it's good to see this this divide at the moment. You can see this cunning from the drivers.
Yeah, it's going to be a... sorry, go ahead, no?
I was going to say, you go ahead, Dan.
Well, it's going to present a unique set of opportunities for the guys now. Obviously, we saw a lot of these cars come in at lap 7, so we're only 4 laps into this run, which is not a bad idea, especially if you're back running the strategy. And I know you touched on that last week, Nori, where a lot of the guys thinking of setting their strategy up. Where is the earliest they can come in to get that final stop completed? 11 laps to me seems like a long way out, but if they're able to get it down, get the fuel out of those cars in the fresh rubber, they've definitely got a good opportunity right here to start working their way back up through this field.
And how much fuel do they save under this safety car? They'll have to catch the back of the train, but it's still an awful long lap behind the safety car. And then how long before the safety car's in is the next one?
I believe we're just going to have the 1 lap under the safety car, I think, being told by us by the organisers. But this is good. It is a random safety car, I will just say that. Not an entertainment portion, something like that, where if the race gets dulled and the safety car is deployed, it's totally random. It would have been spun before the race was even started, that the safety car would come out on lap, well, I guess on the start of lap 12. So it's totally random, and this is just how the luck of draw falls. And it does mean that everyone's back into a pack, because, safe to say, I think James Scott had this one much in the bag, frankly. I mean, he has made a mistake so far. He did only have a 4-second lead, but it would have had to taken something quite spectacular for him to lose the race win. and now it's really anyone's. It's it could be Scott's, it could be Ratu, it could be Briggs, Dyson, Latter, maybe McKnight, who hasn't featured too prominently so far. He stayed out, interesting, so he moves up into 6th place. But also, of course, watch out for Jordan Ross. He came out of the pits in 14th place, but has more fuel on board, has fresher tyres on board, will have to take less fuel at his last pit stop. Let us know what you think the best strategy is in the YouTube chat. If you think that staying out was the better decision, let us know. If you think coming into the pits was a genius call, let us know as well. It'd be great to get all of your insights, especially supercars drivers. Unfortunately, with such a long lap, it is going to be a rather long pace car period at the moment. And I did see earlier on, I think originally the stewards were thinking of having the restart zone before the Porsche curves. Actually have it coming out of Indianapolis and Arnage, and have it for the Porsche curves instead, but they decided to opt against that. To be fair, I think that's a very good idea, because we do see such problems going through the final few chicanes normally on race starts, but unfortunately we'll be restarting in single file fashion in a couple of minutes' time.
If
I think
you're Adam, if you're Adam Briggs, this is your opportunity to really capitalise on this race. You've got past James Scott and you've got past Brad Rashu previously in this race. You have the opportunity now. The field is condensed. Now's the time for Adam Briggs to really show us if he's going to win a race this year, or if it's going to be another Okayama bridesmaid attempt.
Yeah, you don't get much better opportunities than this, and with a circuit where pace is secondary, racecraft is primary. This is an opportunity for some of these drivers to get a race win. Not sure when the pace car will start accelerating your work, because the GT3 cars are astonishingly quick. And so if the pace car driver at the moment, and the pace car is today being driven by David Camilleri, Nick Holzer releasing the job after drinking a little bit too much before work. I think David's doing a terrific job, by the way. Congratulations to David on that front. But I'm not sure when the pace car will actually start to accelerate away. But James Scott does have the final couple of corners where he can start to go to start to put his foot down, just getting up the map from earlier on. And it is actually right at the end of the lap here. You can only go green, I think, when we get onto the pit straight. So there's not a whole lot of malleability for him.
No, there's not going to be a large opportunity for the guys to get a restart, and for James Scott here, he'll control that right to the very end. We've seen it already over the course of the season. He's very late on getting the entry away. Trying to set that time where it's very awkward for anyone else to sort of get a run out of it. So I think we'll be seeing the safety car momentarily start to skip away once we clear through the Porsche curves, and looks like they're actually already starting to lift the speed of that momentarily. So we should see James back in control here. I mean, if I was looking at getting a run out, I'd be thinking hold them up as long as possible, get into the forward curves, and then shoot through before you crack on.
Booker 0013 Gaming Videos. I feel like pitting under the safety car sounds like the best option. Obviously, dealing with the traffic could be a problem. Booker 0013 Gaming Videos, you know what you're talking about. I agree. I think I like the alternate strategy. Let's see if it works. He's going to have some overtaking to do. Will Jordan Ross starting this restart in 14th place? But it could be a danger. It's James Scott, though, as per, at the front of the order. It's his choice when to go, but he does have to wait until after the chicanes at the end of the lap before he puts his foot down. You can see the pace car's gone. Scott is usually so good off the starts, and these starts are going to be so important. If you can break the draft, that would be huge going onto the Mulsanne straight. And Bradford too, with a brilliant chance at a race win, surely his best chance of a race win all season long, maybe for several seasons. He has got to stay right onto the back of the Logitech G Altus esports machine. Through the final couple of chicanes, we are going to move on to lap 13 of the race. We have 12 laps remaining at Le Mans. We are back under green flag conditions. It's Scott who leads. We have 2 seconds. Briggs third, Dyson fourth, Latta in fifth position. Keep an eye out further down for Jordan Ross as well, trying to get past Mark Duggan. But it's a 7/10 lead so far for the race leader, who's trying to stretch his legs straight away. Further behind, single file on the most part. The lock-ups from the various drivers into the chicane. Going to be some cold tyres, going to be some fresh tyres for many of the competitors. I think see a Fishing Motorsports driver just trying to get back on the inside. I think that was Michael Whiting there, Tadyancic in 28th position at the moment. Jordan Ross, we might have to turn to there. He's 1.5 tenths of a second behind Mark Duggan at the moment, who was well out of position because he has not yet made a pit stop, or has not made a second pit stop. And here comes Ross. He cannot waste any time on this one. He is so far 8 seconds off the lead, but we think he's going to be able to take approximately 10 seconds less fuel at his next pit stop. So he needs to try to maintain the gap to the race leaders.
Yeah, he's getting on with business really quickly. While those tyres are still cold, he's pushing on as quick as he can. He's just dispensed now with Mark Duggan in through the first of the 2 chicanes on the back of the straight. We close up now to Stephen Varga. And then you've got Tyson Every and Rob Bowden just ahead as well. So this is a good opportunity for him to start reclimbing and capturing those positions that he lost.
It's the alternate.
So you go ahead.
I was going to say it's the alternate strategy, and it looks like it could pay off if he keeps this gap down. If Brad Rashford, Adam Briggs, and Andrew Dyson all keep that gap to James Scott closed, he's only got a few key players before he's really back up on the back of that train with fuel in hand.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, once he gets past, I think Jacob Knight probably in 7th place. I think he should be able to get past quite easily. I think after that, he's not going to be losing that much time necessarily, is he? Because the drivers in front of that are very quick drivers in their own right. The 126 really deep. It's a cone. But he has a very good racing line. There might be a slowdown though for driving that wide. Misdale slowing down. He's got a slowdown, and if he's cut the milestone corner there, then that is a huge slowdown. But he does seem to be back up to speed again. Going to be under pressure though from Tyson McAvoy, who goes to the outside line into Indianapolis and has the overspeed. The outside line works so well into the right, but it turns into the inside or the left. And that was nicely done. McAvoy having a good race up into the top 10, albeit still with a pit stop to make. Remember, Ross and Johnston, Sinny and Borg have all come into the pits twice so far in this race, and so will be much higher up later on.
Well, might have lost it into that corner there, but Ross seems to have gotten past him ever so slightly. As you see the rear wing come into the frame of shot there. Now that move's done, and another one marked off the list. Eyes forward from Jordan Ross onto Daniel Misdale.
Very close to the lead up, mate. 2 right onto the back of Scott. He's got good pace on these fresh tyres. I say fresh tyres, apologies, just on this restart, but look at that. Scott, who's usually able to pull quite a gap as well on the first lap. He's so good on cold tyres as James Scott. But he's being kept very honest in this race since the pace car very tricky for him. Jay McKnight failing to keep with these guys, but the top 5 all in a train, all saving fuel. And that's a lot of curb. Is that too much curb for good too? We've already seen him pick up a slowdown. Oh, he's got away with that one, but that was. Oh no, has he? No, nope. He has picked up the slowdown. He was all 4 wheels off the track. Oh, Bradford too. Come on, you want to have a great, but you cannot afford to make mistakes, and that's what this race is going to come down to.
Yeah, he should be able to clear that one now as they work their way through the Dunlop curve. He'll get back underway, but falls to 5th position in the line. Looks like a penalty to being issued for Jamie Dyke for some contact. So drive-through penalty for that car, and that's another trip down the lane for them. So a little disappointing, but still in this one. Now the teammates lining up with Briggs and Dyson on to James Scott. What can they do with the draft? Because with the failure there of Brad to drop it, or that car dropping a few spots down, that's really allowed Scott now to start escaping that gap out to just over a second.
Disadvantage Adam Briggs and Andrew Dice and his teammate behind him. How many more free kicks can he get? He's got the safety car, got Rashu running off the road and getting the slowdown. He's really got to take whatever speed he's got in that DPR car and throw it at James Scott really hard this night.
Hanson looking to gain a place. This is on Mark Duggan, but this is properly for position. It's up 7 places from his start. By the way, the gap. Oh, it's annoying with Briggs. I mean, we are totally neutral in the country box. All we want is a good race. That's all we plan for. I mean, in my experience, I find it incredibly difficult to be biased towards anyone because so much is going on. But we just want a good race. And when you see the gap, where Briggs going down to 0.7 of a second in the jump, and then open back up to over a second when we get to the chicanes, it is quite frustrating. For the second place driver. Remember, open up the live timing. There's a link in the description below, and you can see the intervals between each of the drivers. It is so important in a draft battle like this. As Briggs gets onto the brakes, the 72 machine gets it in. Yeah, 0.9 of a second. He'll start to gain on James Scott again. And the gap could be down to about 0.6 of a second by the time they get into Indianapolis. So Briggs has been able to bridge that gap once again.
Just in the background, Jordan Ross making the move. It looks like Tyson McAvoy. So it's interesting. Back down there for position 11.
Training cars there. Ross down the inside there into Arnage. That's down into Indy. Not quite able to get it done. Good run there for Misdale to hang that car around the outside. And just hold the position off. McAvoy not giving up on this one, but I think he's going to lose a spot now down on the outside. And just runs that one wide. So that's another spot gain there for Ross. Misdale now be the next contenders. You see one of the cars in the background just rotating around. That was Mark Duggan for Nova Motorsport on the exit there. Just gets that car cleared and not caught up in anything there.
That's risky from Ross. It shows his desperation. See, game places, he's now 10 seconds off the lead. He can't afford to lose any more time. Remember, Ross has got fresh tyres. He's got fresher tyres than the others. So that's a bit of an advantage. He will have fresher tyres as well at the end of the race. And he will have to take less fuel. But this is the pain that he's currently suffering at the moment. He's got a bit more fuel on board at the moment, which won't help. It will certainly hinder his straight line speed. But mainly, of course, he's just got a lot of cars to overtake. Briggs and Dyson, what is going on here? Dyson into the pits. That's early. He's got 8 laps to go. That's quite a big call. I'm surprised he couldn't go further, guys. With the lap under the safety car, you'd think he'd be able to save a lap of fuel. Or at least 3/4 of a lap of fuel. And yet Dyson not being able to go far enough, and he's had to come into the pits. That's going to be a long third stint now for him.
It is going to be a long stint, but that actually allows him now to automatically get through to the end. So as long as he can keep it off a wall and keep the pressure high and the lap times consistent, he's definitely in with a good opportunity to go all the way through to the end. That has released a lot of pressure now on James Scott. The gap extended to 2.1 seconds. Briggs is really going to need a stroke of luck to pull that car back up into contention. And looking at the pace at the moment, just struggling a little bit. Last time by 3:56 dead. Versus 3:54.97 for Scott. So just not quite the pace that he needs at the moment in that DPR car, but certainly with an opportunity still to at least get that gap down.
Here comes Ross. Going to be another move. The 143 putting up a bit of a fight at the moment. Daniel Misdale. Yeah, Misdale keeps on the inside. Misdale is part of DPR Racing, so maybe just trying to help Adam Briggs here. I think Ross is going to be ahead of Briggs regardless. Well, I guess it'll still be quite close, but yeah, Ross cannot afford to lose any more time than he has to. On that last lap, he lost 2.5 seconds to the race leader. Such was the traffic he had to deal with. Corey Shepherd has already made 2 pit stops. and he is in 10th place. He's behind Geordie City and David Johnson. All these guys have made 2 pit stops so far, so all are racing against one another. Look at the battle just ahead of them between Ross and Misdale. Ross momentarily getting ahead, and he is up into 5th place, but he lost a lot of time having to go alongside through that part of the track. In fact, Misdale now getting back ahead. Might be the less fuel for Misdale, and yeah, that's losing Ross loads of time at the moment in the 1-4-3. Has he got the better line into the next corner? No, he's on the outside. He'll do well to make it around the outside there. And the others just catching up very quickly. Misdale doing a brilliant job to help his teammate Adam Briggs out.
Yeah, this will be a good run here for Ross. So he was able to get the car back towards the inside, so should be able to clear Misdale there on the run up to Indianapolis. One thing I do want to check out, Jamie McKnight, who we did see just momentarily ago up in that 5th position, came into the pit lane only a couple of laps ago. That car hasn't moved, so not sure whether that's an early retirement, unfortunately, there for McKnight. That car's stationary in the lane now for just on 2.5 minutes. So that's a really disappointment run for what was looking to be a good effort for him so far.
I think there's going to be any Christmas cards being sent from Jordan Ross to Daniel Misdale. Misdale absolutely wrecking Ross's strategy at the moment, holding him up so much that they're not really in a race against one another as we see a replay.
Looks like a blown engine there for McKnight. Looks like it popped just on the way up into Dunlop curves, so that's very unfortunate for him there.
It's something that we see quite a bit in the supercars. Lone engines, quite random, sometimes can be an extra downshift, and sometimes can just be bad luck. Shame for Jamie McKnight, you're right earlier on, Daniel. He was having a very good run.
Oh, and that was on the run out of the pit lane as well, so really unfortunate for that to play out, because he'd already completed his stops. He was good to go to the end of the race, so really hard break there for Jamie on his return, but hopefully we'll see him back out again next week for the next event. We've got a few more cars now dropping into the lane. Adam Briggs, Ladder, Stovall, Misdale, McAvoy, Shepherd, Borg are all in, and that now has actually released Jordan Ross to start trying to close down that gap to James Scott. Sorry, he's got no one else in front of him, and looking at the pace last time by, he's in a good opportunity now to start bringing down that gap. Currently at 14 seconds, but we should start to see that come down now.
Interesting to see how much that fighting did hurt Jordan Ross in the end of this, when James Scott eventually does pit, and we see that the tables turn in Jordan Ross's favour.
Of course, when we went back to green flag, Ross was only 7 seconds behind Scott, and now he's 14 seconds behind. He's lost, on average, about 2.5 seconds on each of the last 3 laps. And that is why the gap is so large now. Johnson and Cini has been one of the most improved drivers. I'll type the screen saying that they're constantly changing. I don't think they are. Johnson staying ahead, but yeah. I mean, Ross has now got less fuel, and this is all going towards James Scott. And credit to James Scott. I mean, he has had everything going against him. This is a slipstream circuit where where your pace doesn't necessarily guarantee you the race win. He's had the safety car at a very tricky point as well, where he had to make a tough decision with the strategy. And he's had some decent opposition as well up against him, but he has just done everything perfect so far. And it does look good for a 7th consecutive victory for the Logitech G Outsource Esports driver. And of course, to go with some 10 race victories from last season. Ross now having to look in his mirrors at Johnston. I think these guys will all stay in line. They all need to work together in order to get onto the podium. And at the moment, it's looking like what they are doing in Tomaso.
Yeah, it was something I saw in the previous qualifying session. We saw all 4 Synergy cars all running nose to tail, trying to bring themselves up in towards a good qualifying position. So they're continuing to work together, push on, and see what they can do. Just behind, a little battle starting to form up. Christian Smart, Greg Sharp, Brett Loxton all involved over a scrap for the 6th position there.
Christian Smart's recovered well after some problems earlier on. Having as high as 6th place. Of course, many of the drivers who main drivers have made their final pit stop already. The highest driver who has made their final pit stop is Brian Borg. Yes. No, Andrew Dyson, sorry. In 17th. Ross still with an extra pit stop to make along with the others under the safety car. And yeah, Dyson, the top of the drivers who have yet to who have made their final pit stop, and then Bratty, Borg, Shepherd, and Briggs, who shuffled down quite a bit. Briggs had a long pit stop, 28.75. Don't know what that one was about for Adam Briggs, but yeah, that's quite a bit of time compared to the other drivers who came into the pits at a similar time in circuit itself.
Race leader now in the pit, so this will be the final stop for James Scott. We'll keep an eye to see whether Ross blinks as well, because he's still going to have that short fill when he does come back through the lane, and should see Jordan Ross momentarily jump up into the lead of this race, as we see Christian Smart also get past Marty Hansen just a few corners ago. Actually, Hansen and Sharp also diving into the lane for their final stops tonight.
So this lap is where Jordan Ross needs to really accelerate and really get away a massive margin from James Scott if he's got any chance of fighting him towards the end of this race. We will need to use every single piece of that grip and fuel available in that car of his.
Yeah, nothing on the plate now. These top three, I think, are all thinking on the same wavelength. Let's not pass one another. Let's just get the draft one another. Sure that we can at least, even if we don't get Scott, get the others. Still get the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at the end of the race. Where has James? Oh, James has got absolutely miles ahead, isn't he, of the other drivers? He's come out in 7th place. But he's not that far ahead of Andrew Dyson. About 3.5 seconds ahead of Dyson, who's effective 2nd place. But remember, Scott now with fresher tyres. 452 causing collision and improper use of the radio calling safety car. And that is Alex Schuler who has received that penalty, who is still running, but down in 43rd position. So, shame for Schuler. There we have seen a few penalties. Big thanks to all the race stewards for continuing to commit their time to the days and really bringing driving standards up to a fantastic level, and thank you and letting us know on the broadcast of all the decisions that are made.
Absolutely. Adam Briggs here now on the back of Brian Borg, and Borg's teammate just ahead in the form of Corey Shepherd there. So this could be a good opportunity here for Briggs, who moves that car across to the shoulder edge. He should be able to get this one done nicely down into the 2nd chicane here. Actually, good run of speed for the DPR driver, and gets that move cleared off well and truly before the brake zone. That will now see Briggs now move up to 13th position, with still quite a few cars ahead of him yet to make their final stop tonight. So he's definitely going to get back up and around our top 5. But a little bit of work for him to do, as James Scott likewise just gets past Chris Barnes. The Tanked SRT car now up into 6th position. Still quite a gap for him to get back up to our race leader. The gap's still at 30 seconds, but there is still that one more stop that we need to see Jordan Ross come down the lane for.
Entered in on lap 11, 7-lap stints for the drivers. I doubt they'll stretch it to an 8, albeit, of course, the safety car did help, but you may as well kind of try to even out your stints on the tyres. So the furthest they can go would be lap 18. I think they might actually come in on this lap, because we've only got 6 more laps to go. You kind of want to have an even amount of laps on each set of tyres. However, if you've got extra fuel, I guess it might be worth just staying out for one extra lap and run on some lower fuel. You will gain a few tenths of a second, obviously, by running a very light car in comparison to a very heavy one. So let's see if any of these three, in fact any of the top 5 who all came in under the safety car. Hasn't quite worked at the moment, but it could work in a bit. Does anyone come into the pits? They all stay out for one more lap. Expect them in on the next lap, unless they are really brave and want to extend it to lap 19, although doubt that they'd get the benefit of the fresh tyres if they did do that. Will they even take tyres? Because they'll be taking so little fuel, tyres may actually hold them up. We'll see. The 16 car of Rob Bowden, the fantastic Tanks SRT livery, trying to overtake Jimmy Stovall at the moment. All of these guys have made their final pit stops, albeit at different times of the race, between 14 and lap 16. And they've also got a whole host of drivers straight behind.
Yeah, and all those cars making a slight little wiggle as they work their way through the Porsche curve, so a lot of pressure being applied. Looks like we're going to see Brett Loxton down, getting a move done into the Ford curves. He's not making it easy for himself. He had that slight little lock-up, just gets ahead there of Rob Bowden, and then contacting shoes. We saw Sean Thompson duck to the inside there. Looked like Daniel Misdale also trying to get around Bowden, already slowed up, trying to redress that situation.
I don't know if that was even anyone's fault, to be fair, Noi. I just thought that was, two cars going into the chicane. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, that was just clumsy. That was someone forgot to tie their shoelaces, and someone else tripped over the guy tying them up. So that was clumsy, and I think the right move was taken there by Bowden to just back it off and see if he can try and redress the move while he had the opportunity.
Briggs gets in past Shepard. Shepard's been overtaken a couple of times recently, or has it just been this battle with Briggs, which has been pursuing for a little while already? But there's 72 regardless. Up into 8th place. Still more work to be done though from Adam Briggs, who will be feeling like he could have won this race. I don't know what happened at that last pit stop. 29 seconds. I mean, that's a long one. That is 5 seconds longer than James Scott. I guess he maybe took less fuel at his first pit stop. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Strange one on that front. The 073 of Daniel Misdale, who has been in the wars, of course, wrecked Jordan Ross's strategy early on, which may well help out his teammate Adam Briggs later on in the race. It did lose him quite a bit of time though. He's now got Sean Thompson just sitting on his back bumper. But he didn't get it past. Good. Thompson there. The race leaders are approaching the Porsche curves, I think, at the moment, or maybe just approaching Indianapolis. Still Ross leading the way, and that last time he did a 57.13, which is good, but it's not spectacular, especially in clear air. He needs to do a bit more than that, did Ross. He needs to be getting really into the 55 strength loops to be able to battle James Scott. He has got into the 55s already today as Jordan Ross has a disqualification for the 209 machine. That is Brett Loxton. And that is for towing without permission, which is very naughty because you need to keep the stewards up to date with that, because if you do so back to the pits, you're meant to get a safety car. So that is a very important element of the series.
And Brett Loxton too was that car we saw rotated around following the contact there with Rob Bowden in the mid exit of the Ford curves there. So a little bit of a naughty slap on the rest of him. Jordan Ross still continuing on at the moment. We'll keep an eye as to whether he's going to duck down the lane just to get that final splash of fuel. And at this point in time, still looking pretty. 3 Synergy Sim Racing cars line astern. This is a fantastic look for those guys at the moment. James Scott still putting in some PBs. Actually, put a PB in through the 5th sector. Actually, that was last time by. So still closing up that gap. Looking at what is potentially just on 30 seconds.
Actually got it just to 31 seconds across the control line there as a gap back to James Scott. So they'll be looking to probably not take tyres. They'll probably just be looking to top up the fuel tank when they eventually do take this stop. And it is incoming. It's probably at the end of this 3.5 minute lap. 3 minute 55 lap. If Jordan Ross keeps punching them out as he has been doing.
Rob Bowden with a drive through penalty. Forcing a collision. I think good shout there, Noe, from in terms of them not taking tyres. If they were going to take tyres, they would have already pitted, because what's the point in taking tyres with 3 laps to go? You're not really going to be able to use those tyres to your advantage. You'd pit earlier. I'm surprised none of them took tyres out. I'm surprised none of them pitted on that last lap, took tyres. You know, you'd be so quick on the last few laps, albeit maybe the tyres aren't you too useful around a circuit like this. And of course, it's getting pretty dark, it's getting pretty cool out there, so the tyre wear isn't going to be significant. This could be the battle for 3rd place later on. Scott seems to have the race win all but sorted. Ooh, actually I've just seen on that last lap, Andrew Dyson, it's the gap down to 1.3 seconds. Andrew Dyson absolutely storming along at the moment. 27.18 on that last lap from Dyson. He was 2 seconds faster than James Scott. He is bringing that gap slightly down, so he might have a battle for the race win still. Meanwhile, you can see, defending from Briggs. Briggs deeper on the brakes. Oh, that's a move. That's, oh, he's missed the corner though. That's not a
slow down.
Slow down though, you get there. It'll be manageable. I think he'll still be in the train, but he will drop to the back of the train. And now, next up, Corey Shepherd will have a go at passing the EXG machine.
Yeah, Shepherd likewise also bringing his teammate along for the run as well, so we potentially could see Ratu displace 2 spots here if Borg's able to also slide that Premier Esports car down inside. Doesn't look like he can, but also Briggs coming back at Brian Borg after that slowdown, so Borg's gains a position. Oh, the EXG car, a little bit of a shoulder run, very wide and displaced mid-corner there through that second chicane, so potentially a little bit of a bump and run. See whether race control has a review of that particular one, but he's going to have to be careful with Ken Ladder now closing up.
Disappointing race for EXG. Started 2nd and 3rd, now running 9th and 10th. I don't think they've done a whole lot wrong. They've been unlucky as here comes Shepherd. That's tight. He kind of stops, but he still lost out on the position. That was a cool cameo angle to watch that from, because it looked like he was always going to miss the corner right there. So it's now Briggs leading this train. Could be a DPR double podium here. Could be 2nd and 3rd, albeit I think Ross, Johnston and Cini will be able to get ahead of all these guys. We're not quite sure. Not quite sure how long the pit stop is going to be. Alongside Briggs, Shepherd on the outside, Briggs on the inside. I'll swap ways into the next corner. And it is actually Briggs who stays ahead with defense. Leaders, are they coming into the pits? Oh, that's a slide for Ross. You can pick up a slowdown right at the end of this lap, and not so, because you're coming to the pits anyway. A little bit of a useful tip there. If you're driving in Daytona in particular, or Charlotte Road. Into the pits though comes the 143. They are all into the pits, and this is the big point. And look at Dyson, guys. What's happened to Andrew Dyson? Has he put some nitrogen in that fuel tank or something? He's storming along right now.
Yeah, definitely lit the firecracker in the seat there, and he's going for Scott here. Keep an eye on our top 4. They're already stationed, coming into their spot. They're still transiting down the lane, but for Dyson here at the moment, this is a fantastic run for him, closing right up on the back. He's going to get a good opportunity into the forward curves, but I wouldn't be surprised if we look to see him making a run down on the back straight, possibly into either the first or second chicane on the Mulsanne. Now 3 soon-to-be former leaders, all stationary in the lane, and now going to drop behind this battle.
And they're taking tyres, guys. I'm surprised they're taking tyres. They did save about 10 seconds of fuel. Oh, that's a big gap though. Johnston gets ahead of Ross, so Johnston managed to save a bit of fuel when sitting behind Ross. And that's the gap that they've got to make up. But I don't know what's happened to James Scott. I think James Scott's got a problem, guys. Maybe he's underfueled that car. But 58.9. Oh, no, Cini's made a mistake. Oh, he worked so hard for that, Cini. He worked so hard for that P4, and he still can't get it in a straight line. And then just like that, he dropped out tonight. That is so annoying for Troy Cini, because that was a great strategy for him to come in under the pace car. This was Briggs then who took the opportunity to try to get past him. Was there contact? No, it was just the cold tyres.
Cold tyres, max attack.
And very lucky not to make contact with the DPR car there as he was trying to cover that thing.
In comes Dyson. Dyson is ahead of James Scott, but Scott is going to try to respond Scott's got a problem here. He's lapping much slower than he was earlier on in the race. He's doing high 58 at these last couple of laps. He did 58 on the last lap. I think it was a 59 the lap before. He's been in the 54s as Scott. There's no reason why he should be slower right now. No reason. He has been able to repel that attack from Dyson, but this is looking rather inevitable. And they're 6 seconds clear of Ross, who has got a viable chance of closing the gap. Ross actually getting ahead of Johnston. And those two will be working together to chase these guys down. From an easy James Scott win, this has all of a sudden got very complicated.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Sam, too, on the short footing strategy. If you remember back to the first stop that all these cars took, James Scott was in the lane stationary for around 28 seconds trying to pack that thing full of fuel. He was about 5 seconds shorter on stationary stop last time by, so it could be a case of just trying to keep enough fuel in reserve. We've still got just over a lap and a half left to do to complete this one, and yeah, he's going to be really struggling to try and get that thing home at this rate.
Ross and Johnston now 5.7 off the front two. Be any of those four who wins this race, I think it Briggs is out of it in 5th place, but with Ross and Johnston's fresh tyres, they will be catching quite Chris Barnes off the circuit down to 25th. Good battle going on between Chapel, Dodds and Dumbrell further down. Apologies if we haven't, shown your battle, if you're watching this back on replay, or if you've got a friend involved or a family member involved. You can't want to see on camera. Apologies we haven't shown a whole lot of them, because there's been plenty of battles going on, but so many actions, so much action going on, we can only show one thing at a time, unfortunately. But this is Dumbrell battling with Dodds. Just so you can see the inside fight for Dumbrell, who was running as high. I'm just trying to think how high he was earlier on. Oh, Dyson! Dyson with a fault. Oh, well, I don't know. What's going on now, guys? Why is it that James Scott seems to have a magnet on him? Someone looks as though they can challenge him, and then they just make a mistake and lose it all.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether Dyson's just picked up a slowdown, or it almost sounded like that car just not wanting to get the power down and go. It seems to have recovered at the moment, but really struggling. Here's another look at it as they run down into Indianapolis. See whether he was a little wide on the curb there. Looked pretty good on the initial turn in, especially in mid-corner there. It doesn't look like there was much wrong. Final shot into Arnage is going to be the one that's going to be the telling sign, or loses the back end with the brakes. And actually the car just not getting out of first gear. That could be a potential mechanical issue that's held him up there, because he's really struggling to get that car into gear.
And when we say mechanical, I mean that's probably in the real world that could be something wrong with his steering wheel. I doubt that would be something in sim. It might just be something part of his equipment that he has struggled there. Ross then, the challenges keep on coming, but he's like the final boss level in a game. It's down to 4.2 now, so Ross is faster. Scott with a better lap time that last time round, 57.5. That's a better time, but Ross will still be in the probably 54s. So you've got 2 laps to go. He needs to catch up to Scott by about 2.5 seconds a lap in order to catch and pass him. Sean Thompson as well with a bit of a knock further back, but this is a great chase now, and Ross seemingly making up a lot of time on the brakes. I wonder if he could ride on board with Scott for just a few moments, see if he is lifting close to him.
Teammate Damien Johnston just dropping off the back of that train as well. Dyson trying to get back into it. Further down, Geordie Sweeney still recovering from the rotation that we saw following his exit from pit lane. There should be a move down on the inside pass for Corey Shepherd. And then also Brian Ball getting through on his teammate a couple of laps ago by the looks as well. So in the team rivalry, Premier still hard and fast at the moment.
Do you know why Bradford 2 retires?
when he was probably bumped wide off the back of the chicane. That might just be a driver then.
Yeah, I mean, he, yeah, gradually saying James is saving fuel, or was saving fuel, perhaps, because his pace has improved recently. Yeah, so James made that, but James made a couple of mistakes so far. Brad, let us know why you retired, because we did see that cut across the track, as Noah was saying, but he played something a bit more terminal. Was the end of it for him. Cine into 6th, but it could have been more for Cine. Could have been more for a lot of these drivers. But of course, he came out alongside Dyson in 4th position. Or what would now be 4th position, as, wow. Contact between the two of them. That could be very dangerous into the next corner. Can they all get it stopped? Daniel Mearsdale, the head of the 3 of them.
Timon takes 2 places from them while they're having this little scuffle and gets a wheel in the rear quarter panel for good measure.
But now the 92 is going to storm up here at the driver's seat. Sean Thompson can get back ahead of them all. By the way, they were battling before with Carl Stokes. It's now 32 places is Stokes. I'd say he could get a top 10 if he got a safety car, but hasn't quite achieved that. But not too far from it. Thompson just being able to get ahead of a single file through the Porsche curves. 1 more lap to go. On this time round, Ross again underwhelming lap time. He's still saving fuel, 57.85. Ross 2 seconds faster. The gap is 2.6 seconds. He needs more than that. He does need a lot more than that, and it's tricky to overtake as well right at the end of the lap. The big question is Ross on target to save enough fuel to get to the end of the race, or is he really still struggling? This is the point on the lap where I think he saves a lot. Down to 2.5, 2.4. He just needs to get a waft of the toe, doesn't he? 2 seconds. Scott is really saving a lot of fuel on this lap. I don't think he saved enough. And this run of races that James Scott has had, he's been perfect so far this season. He's offered up opportunities for his opponents today. None of them have taken it, but with the gap down to 2 seconds now, Jordan Ross is on course for catching and passing the defending champion.
Continuing to come down. It's now ticked under 2 seconds. Jordan takes another 1/10 of a second through the second sector, and continuing to close that down. Damien, surprisingly, not able to close up to his team. I think he's just backed off enough to still allow him to fight cleanly, unimpeded for the remainder of this one. But surprising just how tight of a margin James Scott and the LTC Sports team are running that car.
So if you're Jordan Ross, you've got a few more opportunities on this circuit to make this position and move on James Scott. Where do you make it? Do you make it to the next corner? Do you make it at the Porsche curves? Do you make it at the Ford curves? Where does it happen?
I mean, you think Scott, if he is struggling with fuel, you have to lift and coast into the Porsche curves. That's surely the last time, isn't he? He's not going to be able to make it into the last few chicanes. Gap down to 1.5. This is where the draft will start helping him out. He'll, as he starts flashing the lights as well, Scott will see that. I think he'll be more concentrating on his relative. You can see it for yourself. The gap coming down. It's a great corner there from Ross, who really left nothing on the table. It's down to 1.28 seconds, and the draft gets heavier and heavier. And I'm sure his legs will be getting heavier and heavier, James Scott, who, if he's got the fuel, still going to win this race. But if he hasn't got the fuel, and he has got to keep on fuel saving, he will be in trouble with a few corners to go. Again, he lifts and coasts, and it's down to 0.8 of a second. 6 out of 6 so far it's been for Jordan Ross. He has been perfect so far this championship. And in fact, 7 races as James Scott has won so far this season. It's been perfect for him so far, and Jordan Ross is trying to end that finally. You can see the drivers of Johnston, Dyson, Briggs, Cine, Latta, and so on, who have all made mistakes when they've got close to James Scott. Ross cannot afford a mistake here. but James Scott is doing enough at the moment. As long as he isn't running on fumes, as long as he can keep his foot down in this final couple of straights, the overtaking opportunities are running out for Jordan Ross, who has given it his absolute all, storming through the order with the alternative strategy. But as the gap is still 3/4 of a second, the Logitech G Altus Esports defending champion is almost there. It's going to be so close to the line, still lifting and coasting. Can he put his foot down to the floor on the final run to the line? It's going to be James Scott surely to get his 8th consecutive win in the AOSC Super Series. And it came down to a whisker at the end. Another lap, and Ross obviously would have had him. Scott underfueled. He got a slowdown earlier on. The safety car was against him. The strategy was against him. And still, he comes out on top. And he really is looking almost unbeatable this season. Behind them, Kimmons still battling with Hansen and McAvoy. It'll be Ross and Johnston on the podium. Johnston up 12 places by the end of the race. And Daniel, that is pretty incredible. James Scott, I don't know why he underfueled so much. He had so much to spare, but he had to lift and coast so much. But that was brilliant management at the end, and he gets to the line.
Yeah, it was a fantastic run for James, as you say, now on the trot. He was pretty well hotly contested the whole way through. It wasn't an easy race for him, although we did see some gaps extend prior to the safety car. It wasn't one that came to him easy. He had a lot of competition out there tonight, and for Jordan Ross and the Synergy team, along with Damien Johnston, it's a great job for those guys to have 2 of their cars up inside the top 5 as well. So it's good to see a lot of teams now starting to rise to the challenge. Really unfortunate that we didn't get to see Brad Ratu get into it as well, because I mean he was right there for the majority of the race, and a little unfortunate we didn't get to see that car finish it out. But yeah, these guys are certainly now getting their stride, or finding their stride, and definitely making it a lot harder for James and the Altus team.
Sure, but still, it's 8 out of 8 for James Scott. It's an incredible record, and we're halfway through the season now, and the clean sweep, it really is looking possible right now. But of course, a long way still to go, and you think how close it's been as well. Another round, I mean, Silverstone, when Premier nearly took the race win, we had Okayama, where Briggs was undoubtedly the fastest driver. And of course here as well, where so much competition, but he still comes out on top. Just a couple more drivers still to cross the line. Jay McKnight, one of them. Alex Schuler. So McKnight towed back to the pits, obviously, didn't he? And managed to get a new car, broke the engine, but it's still running. And also Alex Schuler got a drive-through penalty, and Nathan Clive in 40th position as well. I mean, looking forward to the next round of the championship. I'm just trying to see what the next round of the championship is going to be. It's going to be Montreal, no. Is that going to be a place where, again, it's going to be tricky for James Scott, or do you think that will be a better round for him? I mean, what can we expect from Montreal next week?
The supercar generally makes Montreal trip once every season, so it should be a fairly well-sorted track for most of our drivers. I have no doubt James Scott probably picked up the win last year on the last season, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, he should be right at the front of that one. It'd be interesting to see if Synergy and DPR have all picked up their game, even if EXG Motorsports have picked up their game enough at this round to challenge him at Montreal next week.
Yeah, of course, last season we had the team event at Montreal. We had the 650 kilometers, where we had an awesome battle between Logitech, or whatever they were called back then. I think they were called, I think they were Evolution at the time with James Scott. But it was them versus United, and the last half an hour of that, also absolute nose to tail. Was a brilliant battle there. I think that was Scott v Haber at the absolute peak last season. Hopefully we'll see a similar race this time as well. The rest of the drivers are across the line, and we can go through your final results for this round 8 of the championship. James Scott wins by 0.8 of a second ahead of Jordan Ross. Oh wow, that was what a fun lap. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Damien Johnston finishes in 3rd place. Great day for CNG Sim Racing. DPR, Dyson and Briggs. Dyson was so quick, wasn't it? Oh, I've just remembered. Dyson totally should have won that, but he had the issue at Arnage, didn't he? Yeah. Hopefully he'll sleep tonight. Adam Briggs, again, very quick for Briggs as well. Finishes in 5th place. Jordy Cini with a spin. Should have been an easy 4th, maybe even a podium, but ends up in 6th, didn't lose him too much. Brian Borg, a bit under the radar in the second half of the race, finishes in 7th. Corey Shepard was in some great battles in 8th. Kenneth Latter in a bit of a disappointing 9th after a poor start. But then he managed to get himself back into play, but didn't quite work out for him. Jacob Knight in 10th place. Christian Smart with a really good 11th. Greg Sharp with a great 12th as well, up 10 places. James Stovold was 13th. Carl Stokes gained 32 places to get to 14th. Then it was Daniel Misdale, David Kimmond, Marty Hansen, Tyson McAvoy, Matthew Scholes, Michael Whiting, Simon Veyer, Stephen Varga, Chris Barnes, Craig Jones, Mark Duggan, Sean Chappell, Rob Harris, Harry Dodds, Mark Dill, Scott McCune, Rob Bowden, Matty Mascord, Stephen Martin, Tony Gaffer, Brody Scott, Mark Fee, Sean Thompson, Jamie McKnight, Alex Schuler, and Nathan Clive. All those drivers finished the race. 1 lap down was Michael Dumbrell. 2 laps down was Jamie Dyke. 3 laps down was Bradford 2. He did lead for a bit, of course. Also, Michael Tyancic retired. Brett Loxton, Neil Pearson, Blake Delaney, and Paul Warwick. And David Camilleri managed to get a lap in the pace car as well. So we will get some interviews, and it should be some pretty interesting interviews as well. I always get this guy to a chat with myself, but we'll have quite a bit to chat today. It is James Scott who joins us in the commentary box. Oh, James, I mean, I was getting anxiety during that. I was losing my breath. I cannot imagine how you feel. First question, what were you doing with the fuel, man? I mean, come on. You had so much time to spare, and you decided to put seemingly about a lap short of fuel in. What was that about?
Yeah, it's about right. I'm very annoyed at myself with that one. The safety car, because we use a lot less under the safety car, didn't equate for that in my JAT calculation, and yeah, I had to save about 11 litres in the last stint there, and luckily enough, I don't think I managed to save the full 11, but I just saved enough to get home.
I mean, how close was it at the end there? How did you kind of manage that fuel then? I mean, is there like a device you can use on JRT which predicts, you know, how far you're going to get? Because when it's that close, it comes down to real small margin.
I was sort of just doing the maths every time I crossed the line, and I worked out sort of my fuel number that I had to hit every lap, and I was lucky enough that it was right in the first instance, and just enough to get home.
Yeah, absolutely. How was the racing out there? What was the first stint like? Because we saw you slip back for a moment with the slowdown, but you seemed quite patient with that. What was your strategy in that first stint and kind of across the race as well?
Yeah, in that first stint, I sort of said to myself I'll try and break away in the first lap, but that didn't quite happen. I was sort of hoping the guys behind would battle and I was able to break the draft, but that didn't happen. So I got a slowdown, but it's obviously not ideal, but I wasn't too angry at myself with it. It was probably ended up being a good thing with me being able to go the extra lap in the first stint, and then was actually able to overcut the guys. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, because I definitely should have come out behind, adding more fuel. And yeah, it sort of set up my race that first stint.
Yeah, definitely. And was there any temptation to come in under the safety car? Usually in AMF and in AOSC, if there's a safety car come into the pits, it's usually the better strategy. Do you think coming in under the safety car was the better strategy? Do you slightly regret that?
No, I still think that, as you saw with Jordan, he still had to stop again. It was for less fuel, but I still think had I put the correct amount of fuel in, I think the gap would have been quite sizable.
Must have been pretty tense there with, was it Dyson behind you with a few laps to go? You look like a sitting duck right there. I mean, I don't know if Andrew will quite appreciate just what a ball he's dropped there, because that was surely that must have been, that was game over when he got onto your rear end.
I wouldn't say game over. Around probably around any other track, yes, but around here with my fuel situation, it probably was going to actually work in my favour a little bit. I probably would have been able to save a little bit less. Use a little bit less, but probably keep my lap time, or if not, go faster with the draft. So it was beneficial that he did have an issue, which is unlucky for him. Obviously, I don't want to see anything like that happen to anyone. But had he got past, I think it still definitely could have worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Big thanks for having a chat with us. James, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Obviously, all our great sponsors at Altus Esports, with Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Cube Controls, Own 3D, and Race Tech Seats. And you guys for putting on a great show, and the AOSC admin.
Awesome. Thank you very much, James. And we will see you back at Montreal next week.
Thanks, guys.
James Scott there for Logitech G Altus Esports with his 8th win of the season out of 8 races. Daniel, who are we going to talk with next?
Let's bring up our second place tonight, Jordan Ross. He had a fantastic run out there tonight. Jordan, mate, congratulations on a fantastic drive tonight. You got yourself home in second place. It wasn't an easy run for you with the alternate strategy out there, which was a little surprising for us. We weren't really expecting it, but in the end, finding yourself up 3 spots from where you started. Tell us a bit about how the night unfolded for yourself.
Yeah, hey guys. I'm sick of like getting 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So I just tried to do something different to try and get a win and take one off James, but he was still too good. So that's all it was. I was happy if it panned out that I finished 20th. I was willing to cop it on the chin to try and get a win. But in the end, didn't work out, but we got close.
Yeah, definitely. It was a unique situation. We weren't really expecting a lot of guys to come in potentially under the safety car there. When you did, you managed to sort it out quite nicely with your teammates also lining up behind you in the form of Damian Johnson and Geordie Senior. You guys all got together. I noticed in the pre-qualifying session, you guys were doing a similar sort of thing, trying to utilise the total advantage of the car. Was that something you'd worked on earlier during the course of the week?
No, we were just trying to practice it for the race in practice. But to be honest, the car wasn't real good. I didn't really have pace to stay with the front, like Briggs and Ratu and James. So, if we could use our slipstream, as a team to help us, and that's what we're trying to do. But a little bit of work to do on the setup because we were just a bit off tonight. So we'll look forward to next week.
Well, it definitely looks like the car's improving. I know when we spoke to you early on in the year, you guys were still trying to find your feet with the new car and get the setup styled. Looks like you guys have made significant inroads in the pace of that. Next week, we head to Montreal, a track we know you guys are very familiar with, and the Synergy Sim Racing team. A little bit different format, back to a 150 traditional sprint round. You're looking forward first off to that, and how do you think your cars are going to be suited out there?
Yeah, looking forward to that. I think we should be not too bad there. I think earlier in the year we ran that track and we were pretty strong. So, we're a bit hit and miss at the moment. Some rounds we're just on fire, got a quick car, and some rounds we're just on struggle street a little bit. So, but we've got a bunch of new guys to the team, and we're sort of all We're working hard to try and bridge the gap to the top team. So I think we'll Montreal next week. We'll try and get another podium.
Outstanding, mate. Well, again, congratulations on a very hard fought and well deserved second tonight out there. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to?
Mate, big shout out to Damien. His first podium for Synergy since he joined the team. And big shout out to Geordie as well, who had a good run tonight, just a bit unfortunate. All the guys at Synergy, JK Science, Posie's Mechanical Repair, and of course you guys who turn up each week and do your best.
Fantastic, mate. Again, congratulations on the result tonight. I look forward to catching up with you hopefully again next week at Montreal.
Thanks, guys.
That was Jordan Ross, your second place finisher tonight. We should get one more interview with Damien Johnston, and he is standing by with Noi.
G'day, Damien, and welcome to P3 and the Comms Box. What a great run tonight, up 12 positions, and I believe it's your first podium for Synergy. So, well done. Run us through it from your angle.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Yeah, good race. Quali was pretty bad, but just had the mindset of save that fuel the whole race and make that last stop crucial, and it worked out again. So, yeah, happy for the boys at Synergy. P3, that's awesome. So.
Yeah, it's an awesome run, mate. Like, up 12 position, that's no mean feat. And then to go and match it with guys like your teammate Jordan Ross and Andrew Dyson, obviously, he had that moment at the end, but you still got in front of him and got the job done. And even battling with Geordie Cine, you're all the Synergy cars were up there tonight. It was impressive to see you guys there, and on that strategy call to pit and save the fuel was incredible to see from our end.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I sat behind Cine for the first one, and then the plan was he gets the next one, and then the next stop we're off. But unfortunately, had a bit of a hiccup there, so I'm not sure what happened. But still a great result for Synergy. So, and Christian Smart.
It was a great result throughout the field for you guys. So it was awesome to see. Moving ahead to next week, heading up to Montreal, is a circuit you're looking forward to, or?
Yeah, it's not too bad. We'll just have a crack and see what happens. Try and get some good strategy again.
I think if the strategy stays the same as this week, you guys should be on for a good run. Anyone you want to thank while you're here?
You guys putting on the show, and Synergy Sim Racing for having me on board, and all their main sponsors. Thanks, guys.
Excellent to have you here. Well done on your first podium, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time out.
Thank you.
So that was Damien Johnston there in third position tonight. Be a nice result for him and his team. We might actually just bring Bradford 2 in for a little chat just at the end, because he put on a good show. It's Bradford 2. Today we've already chatted to him a little bit on the YouTube chat. Brad, well, it was so good in qualifying, wasn't it? But just take us the kind of where it went wrong with that retirement eventually.
Yeah, qualifying was good actually. There was a bit more time in it. I had a car just through the last sector getting away, but you know, it was still a P2, so that was all right. During the race, the car was actually really, really good. Not a huge amount of time went into the car this week, but the car was still really, really good. It was really easy to follow everyone. It was great under brakes. Straight line was really, really good. The tyre life was great as well. And then towards the end of the race, obviously we last pit stops. I made a little mistake going into the back straight. I'm not sure what corner that is. That put me into the grasps of Briggs, Shepherd, and Borg. And then, there's a bit of an incident between myself and Shepherd. And at that point, I was just, I wasn't going to quite make it on fuel, I don't think, anyway. So, I mean, I was just here to have some fun tonight, in which I had quite a bit of fun. So, I mean, I'm not taking any negatives from it, but the car was great, and that's all I really wanted for the boys. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can you put your finger on why you managed to do so well in qualifying? I mean, second and third is pretty spectacular. I mean, you weren't far off James Scott. I mean, is that just extra work you put into the car? Was that kind of teamwork in qualifying? How did you do that?
No, like I said before, there wasn't a whole lot of time into this car this week. I think I started the setup on Monday for the boys to start getting some laps in when they wanted to, just so they can learn the track and the car combo. And then we sort of did a little bit of fiddling on in OSR during the week, and then for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes this morning, I made a couple more changes to the race set, and the quali setup was sort of just to put together during the session today, which ended up, being really, really good too. And then during qualifying, I would be the leading car, Ken behind me, and Jacob behind him, just so that we could all, try and maximize our time out of the car. So.
Yeah, it certainly worked very well out there. What about the kind of time of day changes? Starts in the kind of late afternoon, started in the evening, ended pretty much at night. Does that, do you have to factor that in at all during practice? And how do you practice for that? Do you just do different stints at different time of day? How do you take that into consideration?
Well, I mean, AOSC put out their weather during the week, which is actually very helpful, for preparing for a race. So we knew that the race would probably reach dark. I did try the car a little earlier in a bit of a night session, and the car felt good, so I didn't really have to change anything. But none of us really stinted in the later times. It was just sort of late afternoon, just fiddling with the car for the short amount of time that we did, and we just raced the car, and it just turned out really, really good for us.
Absolutely. Well, certainly well done on your performance, at least today, Brad, and also on your team managing to get a top 10 finish with Ken. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Of course, I'd love to give a thank you to NatRad. Always, their support is huge when it comes to racing in iRacing, especially myself running the team. Quantum Energy as well. They're also very helpful with drinking products throughout the team and our other side of Exno Gaming, our FPS shooters and stuff like that. And obviously the boys for sticking with me and believing that I can keep pumping out some good race cars, which obviously tonight proved that.
Definitely. Well, congratulations once again, Brad, and we'll hopefully see you back in the coming weeks.
I'm sure I will. Thank you very much.
Brad Rittu there for EXG Motorsports. Well, I mean, if there was any doubt, Daniel, about this format, I think it's worked well. 300 kilometers, it means that we have a couple of pit stops involved in the races. I think this is a format which will be used in many seasons to come. It's really nice to almost have like a Grand Prix distance where you can really kind of get a narrative from the race. A lot of things can happen out there. So, I'm looking forward to more of these 300 kilometer races.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really good initiative. It's like I say, it's brand new for this season, and obviously Le Mans is a bit of a unique circuit, and one I think that lent itself very well to the new format. It provided a lot of excitement towards the back end of the race. The strategy came into it, which was fantastic. We do now have a couple of the 150 events ahead of us. So we've got Montreal, and then we're off to Phillip Island. But the next event that we go to in 3 weeks' time will be Daytona Road Course, where we saw last year it was a fantastic event in the 650. We're going to try it in the 300 next time as well. So that'll be another circuit that'll really promote itself quite well to that type of format. We know the racing is always good at Daytona, and absolutely no reason to think that it wouldn't be. But really looking forward to how that will play out.
Yeah, it'll be great to see when we head to those next few circuits. Should be some fantastic hosts for the second half of the championship. Big thanks once again to the sponsors of the series who make everything possible with their aid, with their funding for the championship. Akita, who provide height, safety and rigging equipment. That's good for DIY. It's good for You know, if you've got a business that you need stuff like that for, go to Akita Solutions for all of that. They are fantastic in that regard. Jinx Shifters, who have Aussie-made premium shifters and also have ARB and brick bias adjusters as well. If you want to upgrade your rig, certainly do go to those guys. Race Circuit Arts Australia, who make awesome race circuits, which you can have on your wall. You can literally just like put a nail into your wall, hang one of these circuits on, and it looks absolutely stunning. So really recommend checking them out. Race Circuit Arts Australia. 6th Gear Imagery, who will be taking all the photos for this round of the championship. That will be on the AOSC Facebook page afterwards. They always look superb on there. Wolf Graphics, who make stickers and also be doing the winner stickers to the judges. I've received a few and they do look really cool. So if you need some stickers, certainly do go to Wolf Graphics. And also West End Mazda, Too Easy Finance, and Paramatsu Isuzu Ute as well. All car dealers based in Sydney and led by Jamie McKnight. So if you're in the Sydney area looking to buy new cars, certainly do go to West End Mazda, Too Easy Finance, or Paramatsu Isuzu Ute in order to buy your next car. Next up, of course, we will be at Montreal in a week's time. We've got quite a few of these AOSC Super Series events coming up in the next few weeks. So subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network, subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and then you can always catch it pretty much the same time every single week. A little bit of a change for the endurance events, but certainly next week will be the same time as this week. So certainly do subscribe for that and turn on notifications as well. There's loads of other stuff as well on the iRacing Esports Network, and so much more stuff as well on Apex Racing TV. Really a lot of broadcasts as we head to the winter months in Europe. A few extra series popping up here and there. And please do check out our social media as well, Apex Racing TV at Twitter, Facebook and Instagram as well. Please do check out all of that stuff. We've got some pretty good content on all of those platforms. But for now, from me, from Noi, from Daniel and from Scott, there is no stopping James Scott at the moment. It is 8 out of 8 at Le Mans. We'll see if anyone can stop him at Montreal. See you then.